Hello, beloved.
Welcome to the Sacred Sister podcast,
where we normalize the magic and sacralize the mundane.
In this podcast, we open up dialogue on metaphysical subjects, self-healing tools, expanding consciousness, and deepening awareness.
We're here to support you in co-creating a life full of healing, meaning, and magic. And the lineup of the season is fire, so make sure to subscribe if you're not already.
I'm your host, Britt, certified self-inquiry and alignment-based smart flow yoga instructor, self-healing song channel, and personal transformation coach, guiding women to gain radical self-awareness in order to reconnect with their most expressive and vibrant self.
And I'm your host, Hannah, a certified astrologer, ordained priestess, and rebirth coach. And I help women integrate past life and ancestral traumas to give birth to their higher self and manifest their wildest dreams into reality.
We're really grateful that you're here.
And together,
we're here to serve as your
Sacred Sister.
Let's dive in. Hello, sacred beings, and welcome to another episode of Sacred Sister Podcast. I'm your host, Britt, and does it feel so good to be back? I'm totally not gonna lie, I have been avoiding making this intro for a little while. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. I just got off the phone with Hannah and I was like, help! It's taking me so long to record this intro. And the reason for that is because this was a really vulnerable episode for me, friends. And I just did this whole blurb here in the intro. And then I was like, you know what? Is anyone outside of me even going to notice that this is such an uncomfortable episode for me? And I think the answer to that is no. Really, I want to say this quickly at the beginning. Like, we're talking about sexual polarity in this episode, and if y'all have been with us for a while, you know that I have processes around sexual expression and sexuality in general. I really like being super genuine and honest about the way that I'm showing up. I've gone into it in the Sexual Liberation episode with Corinne Loperfido, did it in the Yoni Pleasure Palace episode with Rosie Reese. Ugh, it is so funny, y'all. I am sitting here stumped because I'm like, man, we're not even talking about like the act of sex. We're not even really talking about sexuality that much. Mostly we're talking about how divine feminine and masculine get expressed as individuals and in partnerships. But for whatever reason, this conversation was hard for me. So there you go. There you have it. I am a work in progress, and I love gaining awareness over myself in these ways. I feel like there are so many things that you can't really learn about yourself until you are putting yourself in brand new situations. I've had so many light bulb moments since recording this episode, just about my own programs, my own processes, my own confusions, and I love it. So even though I'm crying in this episode and you don't hear from me much, just know that it is illuminating. I really commend Hannah for leading us in this conversation. So with all that being said, today we're sitting down with Jacob Deva. Jacob Deva is a freedom coach, space holder, and facilitator. He's also a bonus dad and a full-time lover. Jacob has been enchanted with heart-centered spiritual growth since his late teens, and he loves guiding his clients and communities through their past trauma and fears into living a life full of radical sovereignty, authenticity, and loving fulfillment. In this episode, we're dialoguing on all things sexual polarity beyond gender stereotypes. And if you're confused on what the difference is between archetypes and stereotypes, I feel like no one says it better than Kim Krans, and this is directly from her Archetypes Oracle Guidebook. She says, archetypes live in a big, beautiful cosmos swirling with potential. Stereotypes live in a small box with a tight lid. It goes on to say, let's imagine we pass someone on the street. When we stereotype, we reduce them. We make assumptions, limit, judge, assess, decide. We misunderstand their complexity. We think that we know their story. Most devastatingly, we deem ourselves as separate. No need to listen, no need to learn. This is done unconsciously out of fear. With stereotypes comes the pain of contraction. If, however, we relate to this person archetypally, we become curious. We see coexisting potentials within them. We see their struggle and their shine. We realize they are unknowable and multi-layered. We begin to relate, reveal, heal, connect. We see ourselves in them and them in us. All this can happen within a split second, without their knowing. With archetypes comes the freedom of expansion. Everything belongs. And the reason that I think it's so important to really relay the difference between archetypes and stereotypes is because of everything that we get into in this episode. We're really looking at not only divine masculine and divine feminine archetypes, but the ways that they show up within the pole of sex that we usually associate, meaning women with feminine energy, men with masculine energy. We're really breaking down this paradigm for anyone that it may still be alive for, and saying that yes, divine feminine can be found in men and divine masculine is found in women, especially whenever we are looking at the human experience from a energetically balanced state. We are thriving in our best when we are expressing ourselves with both of the poles, no matter where we land on the spectrum of gender identity, and find deep, deep harmony and resonance within those self-expressions. In this episode, we talk about Jacob's dark night of the soul and how he found his purpose, sex versus gender, duality versus polarity, expressing conscious feminine and masculine energies within relationship, embodying true, radical self-expression, and healing the wounded masculine and wounded feminine. So let's get into Jacob's human design. Jacob is a generator, and hello, we've had mostly generators on in this 4th season. Generators are these powerhouses. They're these absolute powerhouse energy monoliths that people can come and plug into and receive information from, and Jacob is a really, really powerful leader. When we look into his incarnation cross, which is the cross that we're here to bear, what it is that we're really looking to learn from and experience within this lifetime, Jacob's incarnation cross can be found within the quarter of civilization, where purpose is fulfilled through form. And he has the left angle cross of uncertainty, which looks like people who step into the mutative uncertainty of turning energy into form. You need the right spirit and the right material resources to try. And I love this incarnation cross for him because it literally links to his brand new program that just launched this week. It's called Prime My Life. And in Prime My Life, they draw from various disciplines of psychology, physiology, somatic therapy, trauma-informed practices, breath work, and mystical traditions to create an easy-to-follow neuroscience-based daily practice to elevate your well-being on all levels. And inside of this package comes these priming activations, morning and evening breath work, meditation journeys, a reflection workbook, on-demand videos, private access to members-only areas, ethersonic breathwork journeys. Like, so much stuff comes inside of this, and I love that because it literally speaks to his incarnation cross and saying that he's here to provide these forms. He's here to help people take in these practices so that in doing the practices, their lives then begin to reflect these new forms, these new expressions. And Jacob is here providing materials to help get people there. And he's kind enough to offer every Sacred Sister Podcast audience member a 10% off discount with code SacredSister10. You can find more information on Jacob, his offerings, and services at jacobdeva.com. I'm also going to link all of this and put it in the show notes below. Go connect with him on Instagram at JacobLovesBeingAlive. And without much more, let's head into Hannah's astrology segment. By the way, before we head over there, if you're not already following us on Instagram, please be sure to go and follow us there at Sacred Sister Podcast on Insta. We're sharing audio grabs, video grabs, potent, juicy bits and nuggets of wisdom, along with some really dope and aesthetically pleasing memes. So if you're looking for more high vibrational content, go over and catch us over there. All right, Hannah's astrology segment. Let's go. Bye, babe. Thank you for being with us.
Hello, sacred being. Welcome to the inner blueprint section here for Jacob Deva. I'm your host, Hannah, and I am so excited to be diving into this astrology reading. The reason why we're doing this with our guests is because it helps to bring astrology down into a more grounded and practical approach so that you can start noticing those different archetypes that Jacob is embodying within the episode as well, while he's talking and while he's telling you about his life and his way of thinking and the work that he's doing in the world. So let's dive in. Jacob's sun is on the cusp, 0 degree, right between Scorpio and Sagittarius. This cusp is called the cusp of revolution. We have Scorpio, the fixed water sign, on one side. We got Sagittarius, the mutable fire sign, on the other. Scorpio is giving Jacob the ability to dive deep, to feel emotions on a deep, intimate level, and to have energetic influence over other people. It's the sign of the alchemist, the witch, and the transformer. And then on the other side, we have Sagittarius there with the wildfire, the explorer, the adventurer, the teacher. So bringing the depth of intimacy from Scorpio, combining that with the freedom-loving, adventurous Sagittarius energy, and really finding his own way of how to express himself and shine his light. And that's what he does with his freedom coaching as well, and he helps people to do the same. And then it's especially in regards to relationships. Since his sun is conjunct Venus, relationships are highlighted in his life. His partner is really important for him to shine his light brighter. And both his sun and Venus are in the 10th house, which is the house of career and public image. So he's meant to shine his light bright in the public together with his partner and shining light onto relationships, polarity, etc. This is why Jacob was the perfect person for us to interview in regards to sexual polarity beyond gender stereotypes. The cusp of revolution helps him to see beyond the old system, beyond the old structures, and really find a way to express love and relationship in a sacred and deeply intimate way. Jacob's moon is in Capricorn, conjunct his north node and also conjunct his Saturn. And he is also Capricorn rising. So we have a lot of Capricorn energy there. Capricorn is the manager, the boss, the builder. He's meant to build something. He's meant to become an authority in regards to whatever Saturn is in. We see Saturn is in Capricorn in the first house, conjunct his moon. That means that he's meant to become an authority in regards to emotions, in regards to the feminine, in regards to family, in regards to creating sacred space, being a space holder. And that's also one of his job titles, in fact. And he has the ability to hold space for the feminine, to fully allow all the emotions to flow through her. And it's beautiful. And he's actually guiding Britt during the interview and showcasing that, how he holds space for her to allow her emotions to flow freely. It's a really magical moment. With his moon being conjunct his north node, it shows that at first, the emotions and the feminine, there's going to be trauma connected with it. It's going to be hard for him to express that fully, especially with a Capricorn moon. A Capricorn moon tends to be focused a lot on getting things done and putting his worth on how much he has achieved, and emotions are often very restricted here, and it usually shows that he comes from a home where emotions were not encouraged and vulnerability and sensitivity was looked down upon. And so part of his North Node, his soul's purpose, that is what the North Node is about, the reason why we've incarnated into this lifetime. And part of that soul's purpose for him was to really stand up for himself and stand up for his emotions, allowing himself to reconnect with his feminine energies, and from that point on, establishing this authority and self-mastery over himself and over his masculine energies to create this beautiful balance between his masculine and feminine. We're also seeing here his South Node is conjunct Chiron in the 7th house, which shows that there's trauma related in regards to relationships, and he's going to go through wounds. He's going to get hurt within one-on-one relationships. And the reason for that is in order for him to really establish that beautiful, deep, sacred relationship that he has now with his partner. It is all in our inner blueprint. Isn't it amazing when we just look into the South Node, the North Node? The South Node is where our traumas come from. This is our luggage that we're taking on from other lifetimes. It's also where our gifts lie. And one of his greatest gifts is combining that Chiron with the 7th house, helping other people go through that wound, the wounded masculine, the wounded feminine, anything that is imbalanced within their relationships. And that's what he's doing with his clients as well, and really helping them free themselves and finding a system for themselves that works for them, a routine, a ritual, and devoting themselves to their highest expression. And as he says, help them reclaim their unfuckwithable wholeness. Alright, so this is it from Jacob, and if this is something that interests you, you can go onto my website hannahchristensen.com and book your own inner blueprint reading. If you use the code Sacred Sis, you get a special discount as our Sacred Sister podcast listener. I just want to say how much I appreciate you and how much Britt and I just really love seeing what kind of impact these episodes have on you, and how we are a service to you as being your sacred sister. And we just want to say too that we really want to deepen that connection with you. I want to get to know you. I want to know who you are and what you're doing and how you feel about all these things and what your experiences are and your stories. So we've created this Patreon to allow you to support us with $5 a month to help us with the production. And, we're putting a lot of energy, time, and money into this, obviously. So we appreciate anything that you want to support us with. But also what we mostly want to do with it is creating that community of sacred sisters and creating a community where we can talk about these topics and episodes and dive even deeper. In this Patreon right now, we have amazing commentaries already recorded. Britt and I are doing a video commentary on each episode of the 4th season. So now we already are at the 10th commentary. So you have a lot of new content that you can listen to. And then it gives you the ability to directly comment and get in touch with us. And we're really excited to have that deeper conversation with our sisters, with our listeners here in the podcast, because this is what we need. We're in these times where it's so important for us to come together and unite and share like-minded ideas and join in sisterhood. So if this is something that sounds good to you, hop on to our Patreon. You can go onto the link tree in our Instagram that takes you directly there at Sacred Sister Podcast is the Instagram, and that will take you directly to the Patreon link. So I hope to see you there. I'm excited to get to know you on a deeper level. And that being said, let's dive into this amazing, juicy episode with Jacob. Yeah, let's take a deep breath in, relax, and enjoy.
Oh, sacred sister, a kindred flame, may we light one another. the ashes rise. Oh, we rise. Oh, again.
Greetings to all of the exquisite, timeless, and beautiful humans listening to this right now. I would love if we can take a moment and tap into our bodies and feel into our bodies if that feels safe to you in this moment. And Britt and Hannah, I just want to invite you, if it feels good and feels safe, to bring one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. Listeners, you are, of course, welcome to join us in this too. Just taking a moment to feel your seat, your bums on your seat, feeling your breath naturally flow in and out of your lungs. Taking a moment to just notice without any deepening, without any softening, just witnessing where you are at right now. On your next exhale, let all of the air out of your lungs. And with empty lungs, just take a scan of your face and relax any little muscles you can on your face. And when you're ready, breathe into your belly. Let the breath travel up to your heart and hold it in your heart for a moment. Feel your heart beating. And then slowly out through the mouth, release. Beautiful. We'll do that again, empty lungs. And filling up the belly when you're ready. Letting the breath travel up to the heart and hold it for a moment in the heart. And softening and releasing when you're ready. And for this round, we'll take an extra sip in. So empty lungs. Breathe into your belly. Feel your belly pushing out. Let the breath travel up to the heart and hold. And with the breath in your heart, take an extra sip of air in if you can. One more sip. And even another sip if you can. Absolute full lungs, and hold that fullness for 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. Make an audible exhale out. 1. And when you're ready, if you had your hands on your belly and heart, releasing, and just kind of, whether you're in your chair, you're standing up, or you're doing something, just take a moment to give your body a little shake. Just allowing that breath, that energy, that prana, that deliciousness move through your body. Maybe it feels good to blubber your lips. Activating that vagal nerve with your lips is one of my favorite things to do. And for all the listeners listening, I would love to invite you into an intention for listening, whether that be just surrendering to the highest good for whatever is said, or just being fully present with this, or just enjoying this experience. Whatever it is, it may be, just take a few moments to set an intention in silence. And just to speak to the incredible, exquisite, beautiful queens in front of me, it is my intention, Hannah and Britt, to have fun with you, to shamanically dance with you in this delicious alchemy of polarity, to be a channel for the highest good of all listening to this, and to have fun and be playful. And so it is.
And so it is. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Welcome, Jacob, Deva. We are so excited to have you here. Zoe, thanks to Zoe Dane. She was the one who recommended you to us, and that's how we started getting to know you and realize, wow, you are doing such amazing work, and we want to interview you, and we want to share and talk about what you do. And also really diving into this topic today about sexual polarity beyond gender stereotypes. And so I want to really welcome you here. And yeah, you are a freedom coach and space holder, and really diving into that sexual polarity with a lot of your clients, with your within their relationships that they're moving through. So my first question to you would be, how did you become that freedom coach and space holder in your community?
My first response was, how far do you want me to go down the rabbit hole? You know, if I could go back, I was with the woman who I thought I was going to spend my life with in high school. And the short story is I ended up seeing her, walking in on her with another man. And to little 18-year-old me, that was my first big dark night of the soul. And it challenged my self-worth, my enoughness, my own love for myself, my own everything. And it really plunged me into a deep despair. And that was the first of many women that would be some of the greatest teachers of my life. And shortly after that is when I started becoming enthralled with coaching and holistic healing, and diving into that whole realm of unlocking who I really am outside of all the ideas about who I am for myself and others. And so I think, to answer your question simply, it started when I was really young, and it has only gathered more momentum as the years have went on. So to bring you up to date currently, I have been full-time coaching, and by full-time I mean just fully doing what I love every single day, for a little bit over a year and a half now. And it's an incredible journey to share my genuine and genius gifts with others.
Yes. Yeah. And how beautiful is it too, in this age of Aquarius, where we're literally creating our own jobs? Isn't it so much fun?
So blessed.
Before we started this episode, Britt was asking you, what is your title? Because literally it's like we're all creating our own titles. And so we had so many guests already on this podcast that we're just, this is the title that I go with right now. This is what I'm feeling into. And I know for myself, I've changed my titles a lot of times, like even throughout this podcast, we have an intro where we talk about who we are, and I'm always like shifting it up a little bit.
Yeah, every season we have to have a scheduled recording day where Hannah comes over to my house and we record a brand new intro, because both of us have changed who we're going by and the work that we're offering to the world. It's so funny. Every time like halfway through a season comes around, we're like, okay, cool. We're going to schedule that next season intro recording again.
Yes.
And it's like the word, it's always evolving, exactly. And we're always finding like more ways to bring on our authentic gifts, and then creating like, okay, what is it really that we're doing? How can I define that? Because as you were saying, Jacob, we are infinite beings. And it's so hard to sometimes like come down to what it is in this world, our label that we want to go with, you know?
Yeah, not to get off topic, it just goes like my mind when you said that immediately went to the systems of our culture that put us in this school, and we need to be good girls and boys and raise our hands and only talk when we're called on, and then just kind of going through this process of taking away our creative genius. Like we are infinite and we can't be, you know, put in a box of, oh, we're going to do one career for the rest of our lives. It's so limiting to me.
Yeah. And just like we can't be put in a box in regards to our gender and in regards to our, you know, who we are as and who we identify with. So that's what takes us back into this topic now today. And so what would you say, before we get started and diving deeper into it, what would you say is like the difference between sex and gender?
As in the act of having sex, or what? I don't know what you mean by that question.
Oh, like the sex. So like when you say what is your sex, would be like that's yours, you know, the female or male, you know, that would be the sex. But then what is the gender that goes behind it?
I think gender is, I'm not sure if this is going to directly answer your question, but gender is such a personal choice. I know so many people who have a female body who have a yoni and who have breasts and who are like, oh shit, I feel more like a man. I'm definitely more in touch with my masculine parts of myself than my feminine. And so, yeah, I think gender is universal to whatever is resonant with your heart, what is true to your soul, to your beingness. Yeah. Yes. And the fact that society puts labels on it is so silly, but we're transcending that.
Yeah, you know, I'm always so curious to only just recently open this dialogue with people, because I, in the last few years, have been allowing myself to go into the programming that I was raised with as a super strict, born again Christian raised household. And so much of the shame programming that came with sex and sexuality, masturbation, and realizing that at 10 years old, I had my first crush was on a girl, and, you know, wanting to explore that and feeling this like, you know, connection with this girl. You know, I was at her birthday party and I went in to hug her. A part of me felt rejected, and like even more shame like came upon what was going on. And I am only just letting these different memories surface from when I shut down a part of myself that potentially wanted to be explored, gotten curious into, and, you know, tried out. And I'm 32 years old, and it's fascinating. I'm always so curious to know, and you can probably speak on this a lot more, about sexual fluidity and really reassessing the labels that we've maybe not even necessarily given ourselves, but that we haven't just really questioned. That's a state that I'm in, and I'm having guidance in my dreams of space holders that are calling me into spaces that honestly are surprising me, and they're kind of scary to me. I was just talking with Hannah about this earlier this week. It's like, how do we it's almost like, how do we accept that life is just so ever evolving and ever changing, and like these memories can surface from our childhood literally at any time, and it almost makes life feel like brand new again, right? Gives us so much to think about. It's so fun and exciting and scary for me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think just in terms of shaming, that the moment I have any memory that I felt shamed by myself or somebody else, it's such a gift to, in that moment, literally hold myself, or I love to hug myself and just send so much love and understanding and support to that part of me that was shamed. Because you know, you brought up religion, Britt, and I also grew up in a deeply Christian household. I mean, I was told that gay people are going to hell,
Mm-hmm.
go down the list.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like inbred in me. And from a young age, I never resonated with the church. And I'm now, with who I am now, so thankful for that, so much contrast and so much like, oh, that's not what I believe in. That all sounds so dogmatic to me, because that almost like that contrast, that challenge in itself paved the foundation of the extremely open, non-serious, universal love beliefs that I have now. And so in those moments, to bring this full circle, in those moments that I have felt shamed, or my inner child has felt shamed, it's always such a reminder, like, oh, you are so fucking loved exactly as you are, and perfect and whole and complete as you are.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I see that so often in the current collective energies as well, when we talk about divine masculine energy and divine feminine energy, or just like within sexual polarity, masculine and feminine energy, that the feminine is being equalized to being a woman and the masculine is being equalized to being a man. And I feel very passionate about talking about that, because that's what I mean with gender stereotypes. The times when I was studying in Regensburg, I studied for 6 weeks. I studied gender studies, and right before the time when I was accepted to study in University of Munich, where I actually wanted to go to, but it took a while for them to accept me to go there. So I went first to Regensburg and studied gender studies, and I've always felt really passionate about letting people know how much of a difference it is. Like, yes, you can be in a female body or in a male body, but ultimately how that shows up in your relationship to yourself and to others depends on your individual energetic blueprint, and in what way, which energies do you feel more connected to, if it's the masculine or the feminine. And that in itself is also very fluid too, because you can, shift and transform throughout your lifetime as well. But like really
absolutely
talking about that, and how just because someone is a woman doesn't mean that they have to be in their feminine energy at all times in their relationship, and just because someone is a man doesn't mean that they have to be in their masculine energies at all times in the relationship to create that sexual polarity. So I would love to know how you are sharing that with your clients and what your thoughts are on this.
I love this topic so much. The way, whenever I make polarity posts on Instagram, for example, there's always, for the most part, and I mean this with humility, a lot of it gets very praised, like, oh my God, that resonates with me so much. And then there's always a few people who take it very personally. Like, basically what I'm getting at is, from the teachers that I have studied from, that most men or women or whatever gender you identify as, they have like a core masculine essence or a core feminine essence. And I'll use my relationship with my love, for example. She is clearly has a core feminine essence. I clearly have a core masculine essence. And, there's the juice, the polarity, the spark that comes from that magnet, that feminine side and the masculine side coming together. And for the most part, I really love being in my masculine, especially being around her. And then there was a few moments the other day where I was just like, baby, and I love the language that we have. Like, I just need to be in my feminine right now. And I just need you to like make decisions for me. I'm just not, and just please hold that deep, sacred masculine space for me. And she did. And that's the beautiful dance of relationships, in my opinion. And I find through my clients, again, that like 80% of people do have a core essence. And then like the other 20%, they're right in the middle. Like they feel equally harmonious, equally at home in their masculine and feminine energy. Like they have a neutral sexual essence, so to speak. And so yeah, before I get too deep, just want to allow you to respond to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so lovely to touch on. And this is what Hannah and I were talking about in preparation for this podcast interview, is that we love the explorative aspects of our own unions with our partners, like exploring what our unique makeup is and what sort of energies we like to present ourselves with in the union, and how much it changes during different seasons in different realms of our lives together, obviously, because we live together 24/7 with our husbands, and how beautiful it is that we have this opportunity in the lifelong union to explore it and to let things be shiftable, and to hold my husband while he's exhausted, or while he's going through an emotional process, or stepping into more of my masculine and making really big decisions that I feel really, really called to. And I don't think it would serve us for me to, like, you know, relax into my divine feminine and fully surrender to a decision that he might not even feel as called as I do to make. So these are the kind of pieces that we're super passionate about touching on here in this podcast, because I am a part of a lot of Facebook groups myself, and I've popped a lot of bubbles in comment threads where women are almost sort of shaming their partners because they want to be the one that's held, and how dare their partner, he wanted to be held last night, and that's not your role. Like, I don't hold you, you hold me. And then the whole comment thread is just like, yeah, fuck that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised at what's going on here.
No.
You know, and so that this is a big reason that we wanted to have this podcast episode, because I think a lot of times I can think that the collective around me is in a similar space of thought, similar stream, but you know, hey, there's surprises around every corner. So at least having this podcast episode, you know, we really wanted to dive into this topic.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly, the way some polarity is taught, like the example you gave on Facebook with those humans, like it's so limiting. Like, no, you're the man or the masculine, the masculine dominant partner, so to speak, isn't the only one who holds space, isn't the only one who makes decisions, isn't the only one to hold the container of the relationship. Like it's so healthy to switch, to be fluid in both. And I think it comes down to communication. Like, I'll just use my partner as an example. Like, we know for certain that a lot of the time it feels at home for me to be in my masculine, to lead our relationship into so much yumminess. And she is the everythingness. She is the bundle of just emotion, and she's like the ocean, and I'm like the person who builds dam around the ocean to get places that we want to go. And just allowing her to be in her oceanic self, it just makes everything better. But sometimes I need to be in my oceanic self and express my emotions and, you know, my vulnerabilities and all that. So healthy, balanced, fluid polarity is everything. And anybody who says otherwise is just full of shit. It's so important.
And it comes back to, you know, the polarity is not a duality, right? Like when we go into like this versus that, this person has to be standing fully in his masculine at all time, this has to be fully in his feminine, then we're back in the duality, where this is like kind of the age where we want to get out of the duality and be like, hey, wait, we're both, like we're a masculine and feminine within us.
Yeah, you know, Hannah, I know that we touched on this in the What is Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine episode, but for anyone who hasn't listened to that episode, by the way, everyone, just so you know, in season 1, you can go and check out the Divine Masculine and Feminine episode. But for anyone who hasn't listened to it, can you give a quick synopsis on the differences between polarity and duality?
Yes. Yeah. So duality is like one versus the other. It's this black or white thinking. And polarity, duality is like the masculine way of like separating things so that we can put them in boxes and understand them on that level. So it has its purpose to compare two things. But polarity is the more feminine approach to it, looking at it from that yin and yang symbol when you think of that, the black and the white dancing together, and they actually help each other. And it's more of a percentage than a one versus the other. Are you this or are you that? It's more like, this is the spectrum that I'm on. Here's one extreme, here's the other, and I'm on this spectrum. But also, like, let's actually talk about what is masculine and feminine energy so that we have kind of like the same definition before we dive into this too deeply, because we've been already talking about this. For anyone listening to this being like, what are they even talking about? What does that mean? Do you want to share with us, Jacob, what is your definition for masculine versus feminine energies?
Yeah, so I like using metaphors for this because I feel like metaphors they could paint a picture for people, and that's very memorable. So I'll give a few. So going back to the ocean, like the ocean is the feminine. It's everything. It's the storms, it's the hurricanes, it's the tides, it's every form of weather pattern there is. It's everything in the ocean. And then the masculine is the force that builds dams or moats or gets like ships from A to B. So the masculine is like the decisiveness, whereas the feminine is just a sheer force of energy and all of the love that comes from that and all of the everything. Another example can be like I like to imagine a hollow sphere, almost like the earth. Like the earth is here and then the atmosphere around the earth. The earth is the feminine. It's everything that's alive. It's everything beautiful that makes you come alive. It's dancing, it's beer, it's trees, it's nature, it's everything encompassing Mother Earth. And then the atmosphere that holds the container for the feminine to blossom, for Mother Earth to blossom, is the masculine. So the masculine just is the space holder. Another example could be like thinking of like a pole, a flagpole in the ground. The pole itself connected to the ground, the grounded, deep masculine is the pole. It's what stays firm, unshakable, true, unperturbed in the ground, no matter what is happening to, we'll say, the kite or the flag. And the flag could be representative of the feminine. It waves, it soars, it's all of life, whereas the masculine is just a grounded force.
Yes, yeah. Beautiful. And it just reminded me too, in one of my sessions that I take my clients through, is I take them to the life between lives to experience goddess and God. And it's fascinating how the experiences are so similar. And what I've found, what happened to my clients, but also what really resonates with me, my personal experience with the divine feminine and divine masculine energy, is the God is represented as the light, golden light rays. So like very direct energy outwards. And the feminine is the ethereal, translucent space that flows around it, and that basically without the ether there would be no masculine energy, right? Without the ether there would be no light. It needs the ether in order for the light to shine, but also without the light it would be darkness. So it's like this beautiful polarity between the two. And yeah, the feminine is that softness and the vulnerability and the emotions. Like in astrology, it's earth and water, which is feminine. And
also rage, right? And rage and all the emotions.
Yeah, all the emotions that want to come out, right? All the stuff that's in there. And then the masculine is the spirit, the fire, and the air. in astrology. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
the burning light, the fire that we shine outwardly, and then the air, which is the mind, the thoughts of, and those are the things that can structure and create things and shoot them out, right? So just like even, you know, when we look into the lingam, being the sexual organ of the man, outwardly shooting out, literally, you know, their life force energy, and the yoni being the feminine organ, sexual organ that is, you know, bringing energy in, that is receiving,
Magnetizing.
and even the egg, because it always, one of the things that is always told, that, you know, whatever sex your child is going to be depends on which sperm is the fastest. That was like the old theory about it. But actually, Dr. Christiane Northrup is the one that calls something, she calls it egg wisdom. And it's actually the egg that magnetizes and attracts the sperm and only lets in the sperm that she feels called to, that she wants to let in. You know, it's not like she's
is amazing.
I had not heard of that.
It's not that the egg is just this passive thing that just gets penetrated by the masculine.
To be penetrated,
like no, like the feminine decides who does she receive, what does she let in. Yes,
so beautiful.
My love recently was telling me about that a couple months ago, and just how the egg is literally a form of the feminine intelligence. Like, it actively seeks out the highest quality sperm out of the millions of sperms. And like, holy shit, what a testimony to the incredible powers of a woman and the feminine in general. It's amazing.
Yes.
So this morning in meditation, I received this download. I source a lot of wisdom from spiders and spider energy. And I was seeing the web as this beautiful connection of, hey, Picasso, I know you're passionate about spider energy too. Someone's dropping off a package here. But obviously there are lots of spider species, but the webs that we usually associate with spiders have these big, like, rods almost coming out in the web, and then the beautiful arced connections. It's like this really beautiful dance, this really beautiful interplay, this beautiful dance between the softness and the ripples and the flowing pieces that connect these, and it's just a beautiful structure altogether. I literally saw that whole I saw that whole thing, well, because I've really been contemplating this just this week, because I just got done bleeding, and for my moon blood this month, I did my piece, and the spider up there is taking down a web, and what's written there is webs, not cages, reminding us that we have these forms, we have these things that we house ourselves in, and we always have the ability within us to restructure and to take down pieces of the web, no matter how long it's been there. We're always able to reassess, and I've really, really, really been contemplating that, and I have a beautiful spider on my arm as well.
Beautiful.
That picture, what you created there is incredible.
Thank you.
That is so special.
My moon blood practice is one of my most sacred, and it's something I'm really passionate about talking with women about, bleeding women, because it can be such a brilliant creative practice to connect with our limitless potential.
Absolutely. Karina and I have a moon ritual. My love and I have a moon ritual every time she has hers come in, and it's a really sacred process and something we look forward to every single month.
Would you like to go into that process a bit?
Yeah, sure. We usually take her blood, and it's usually before a sex ritual. So on her moon time, she always gets so horny on her moon time, which I find with women, it's either like yes or no, just depending. And we take some of her blood, and sometimes we take some of my sperm too, but I'm working more on keeping that in versus putting that out. But that's another story. We take some of her blood in like a shot glass, and then we'll bless ourselves with some, and obviously there's a whole pre-ceremony to this. There's sage, we write intentions, candles, the whole nine. And then we just make some symbols, whatever symbols come to mind on our bodies, almost like decorating our bodies with the blood of her, the art of her blood. And then usually from there, we just go into the intimacy or the massage or whatever the case may be that day.
That is so beautiful. And I love what you said earlier about how the yoni magnetizes. I think usually we associate that the receptivity of the feminine and the yoni. But I loved that you said magnetizing, because it offers an entirely different perspective from your point of view. Probably you're feeling magnetized towards this yoni. And that is I've been doing a lot of sacral chakra healing and balancing and clearing. And I feel this magnetizing effect when I'm in my fullest expression, whether it's dancing or allowing myself to create art in front of others. And it's a very vulnerable process. And that's actually a part of, let's actually go into that, because do you have clients that can go into that vulnerable process of when they're expressing themselves and the sexuality is present just because it's a natural part of our self-expression? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you're directing a question towards that, but what you said does make sense for sure.
Well, I guess, okay, I'll just open up a little bit more, because I'm having like literally such a transformative experience. My parents have passed away in the last 2 years, and I've been in a really deep, dark night, and I'm feeling myself emerging and coming out of that cocoon and really, shining my light in a brand new way. And a lot of it has been through dance recently, really, really allowing myself to free my energy through dance. And I feel this very magnetizing energy when I express myself. And there's part of me that's kind of scared about it. There's part of me that, like, I'm not meaning to create this response. And a lot of times I dance with my eyes closed because it kind of distracts me if I see people looking at me or anything like that, because I'm not doing it for attention. I'm doing it to express myself. But yeah, that's kind of just like a piece of my process. And I don't know if there's somebody listening here today that may be benefiting from this too, or maybe they avoid expression because they don't want that kind of attention. But I mean, what kind of insight do you have for that?
First, Britt, I just want to remind you that your parents love you so much, and that they are so proud of you, and that they are delighted by you. And just to them, you are the most exquisite thing in the physical and non-physical universe. They love you. And thank you just for being so vulnerable and sharing your dark night of the soul and all the things that have come from feeling those big feelings throughout that process, throughout that grieving process. And when it comes to self-expression, a little bit off the topic of masculine and feminine, well, it has to do with both, but our nervous systems are what grant us strength. And what I mean by that is, if we have recycled trauma or feelings or anything that we are bypassing in any way or trying to numb ourselves with, those feelings get locked into our nervous system. And no matter what we do, no matter how many great habits we have, unless we acknowledge those deeper feelings that we haven't given ourselves permission to feel because they're too painful or too traumatizing to revisit or whatever the case may be, we are never going to really taste the full expression of who we are. So I think to answer the question, to really embody a true radical self-expression, which in my opinion is a balance between like your masculine and feminine, and knowing that constant dance is, first we have to get in touch with all of our feelings and have as much respect for our sadness and our depression and our dark nights of the soul and our anger, and have respect for those feelings as much as we respect our happiness, our ecstasy, our bliss, our passion, whatever. I think that's one of the most healing things in the world, if people just felt their feelings more and didn't rush the process, like you didn't rush grieving your parents. And I'm sure there's still some stuff there that wants to come through. You know, that is how we really heal. And that's how we begin feeling safe. That's how our feminine and masculine begin feeling safe and at home in our bodies, when we give ourselves permission to feel those deep feelings. I love you so much. I love you both so much.
And I want to add to this too, because you were saying that you like to close your eyes while dancing. And that is such a feminine practice in itself, you know, the closing of the eyes, because you're going within. And it doesn't mean that it's in any way that you shouldn't be doing that, or that you should feel ashamed of doing that, or that you should be having your eyes open in order to be able to radically express yourself. You're already radically expressing yourself with your eyes closed, you know, because that's your feminine energy that you're bringing in. And you don't have to stand in your masculine having your eyes open.
Well, yeah, thank you for adding that. I think what I meant more, and maybe I didn't verbalize it very well, is that I almost wish that I could just be by myself without having anyone there, because it makes me feel it's hard. Yeah, this is fascinating. I'm having like a full-on realization here in this podcast interview, because yeah, it makes me uncomfortable when people watch me, and I just want to be like free to have my own experience, but I am free to have my own experience. I guess I don't know, there's a part of me that it's just so vulnerable, because I'm just getting into all this for the first time in my life myself. And yeah, I don't know.
And also you only want to let in energies that you want to have come into your energies. You know, that's what I feel like when I want to close my eyes. I'm happy within the energies within myself, and I don't want to receive any energy from the outside. But when you are feeling like, oh, I want to receive some energy from the outside, then you're opening up your eyes and see, whose energy do I want to receive? Because there might be some people, and you might feel intuitively that those people you don't want to receive their energies, because maybe it's like really sexualizing you, or it's, you know, it just feels icky, and it's like, oh, I don't want to have that energy in me. And that I feel like is such when we're standing in our strong feminine, that's how we like, you know what, I don't want that energy right now. And we can be really confident in knowing, I don't have to be the passive one receiving everything in order to be feminine. I think that's like such a cliche from the past, that was like masculine is active, feminine is passive. But it's not, you know, the feminine, as we were saying with the yoni egg, with the egg in the yoni, it's like literally attracting things, and she's very specific with what she wants to attract. And I feel like that's where the masculine energy comes in within the feminine, that the feminine is actually very specific in who does she let in. And if we're just in our feminine, that's an imbalance, right? Because we don't have that inner connection to our masculine, and we just let things happen to us. And, you know, that's when we let in a lot of energies, you know, we just have such loose boundaries. You know, just like the super wild ocean with completely loose boundaries, and you're connecting with energies that are not good for you in the long run, right? That's where that inner masculinity is so important too, to realize, wait, what are my boundaries? Like, what do I want to let in right now? How do I feel?
And it doesn't mean anything that even the energies that we don't want to let in, that they're bad or that they're not good enough or whatever. Like, it has nothing to do with them. It has everything with your space or with our space right now of like, what do I want to let in? Am I full within myself, or do I want to let in some other energies?
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. I actually really love what you touched on a bit right there, about the boundary making and about being able to state your boundaries and feeling that you're creating a safety around yourself. There have been like so the hug healing circles that go on, I've had women express their discomforts because this is seemingly a very safe space to enter, a very healing space to enter. And also, it seems that sometimes maybe the boundary setting or boundary practices may not be very apparent there or very well practiced. So can we, for a little bit, talk about some of the practices that one can use to fortify their own constitution, fortify their own boundaries, to get more comfortable with speaking what their boundaries are and establishing those within themselves?
Yeah. Before diving into that, I just want to ask you really truthfully, Britt. I felt like a few moments ago, there was some feelings coming up that wanted to be expressed or wanted to be felt more. Does it feel safe at all during this podcast to explore those?
Yeah. You know, it's funny because when I really teared up, there was a part of me that really wanted to be like, that's the thing with me, is that I'm Cancer rising, and it's literally like it's always just below the surface for me. It's always right there. Like at any moment, I'm able to breathe in and feel all the depths of this ongoing grief process. And I feel like it's a superpower of mine. I really, really love that I have this really deep access to my capacity for love. And I don't feel in this moment, I guess it's just like something that I'm sharing with you. Like, this is kind of a bit about me that I just am. This is just like the person that I am. And I really love that I have this really directly connected access to my emotions, and I don't have problems crying anywhere ever. I'm only ever a breath or two away from totally losing it, which can be hard at times, but that's why, you know, I'm such a queen when it comes to self-care. And I'm so grateful at what this process of losing my parents has taught me, because I've really learned how to hone that relationship and strengthen that relationship inside of myself that allows myself to feel so deeply. And sometimes, you know, I go under and I stay under for a while, and it feels like I'm gonna die, and then I do die sometimes, and then I go even deeper, and you know, and then sometimes I can just cry and just come right back out of it and be like, oh, okay, that was fun. It's a wild time.
Yeah, that's what I love about you, Britt.
And you have a little Cancer rising baby yourself. It's like, you know it.
It's like, and it helps me so much because my daughter is Cancer rising too, with like Taurus, Gemini cusp sun. And it helps me so much understanding her on a deeper level and allowing her that space to fully feel all of it.
Wow. Britt, I see you so much, and thank you so much for expressing that. I'm getting this download to share this with your audience, that the wounded masculine in all of us looks at big emotions like crying, especially when children cry, any big emotions as threatening. Like that's what the wounded masculine sees them as. That's why so many men, and I'll just use heterosexual language to be specific. So many men try to change their woman's moods instead of loving them and being present and being Shiva, or just being an unshakable, unperturbable force that just loves them through the entire process. And I just want to share with everybody listening to this that one of the biggest turn-ons for a man is a woman who embraces all of her moods. That is a huge reason that the masculine is so pulled towards the feminine, is because she is so radiant and sexy and beautiful and exquisite, no matter if she's crying in a feat of rage or in blissful ecstasy. It's all the same to the conscious masculine. So just know that all of your moods and your feelings are welcome, and that all of you is whole and perfect. And if a man or woman is telling you that your crying is bad or your feelings are too much for them, they are only mirroring the parts of themselves that are still wounded and that still have not been loved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Let's touch a little bit more on that too, with the wounded feminine and wounded masculine. How does that show up in your clients too that you have? What are some patterns that are coming up?
Well, that segued perfect into Britt's question on the boundaries. Boundaries are a huge thing that a lot of my clients, that most humans struggle with. Mm-hmm. And many of us grow up in codependent homes or religious homes, or just homes that don't know how to set healthy boundaries. Mm-hmm. And so establishing healthy boundaries, not only with others, but yourself and your personal habits, it's a game changer. And so I guess to simplify things, when it comes to setting boundaries with other people, I love using this process called nonviolent communication. And that goes something like, there's 4 steps to it. You observe the situation, and I'll give an example afterwards. You state your needs. What's the process? Well, to give you an example of how to set great boundaries, you can say something like, hey, I've been noticing that you've been leaving. I've been noticing that the dishes haven't been getting done. And, state your feeling. And it makes me feel not respected when you don't do the dishes. Mm-hmm. It would mean so much to me, or I need for you to do the dishes more. Does that feel okay for you? Does that feel safe for you? Does that feel like something we can agree upon? So it's like observing the situation. And again, this is setting boundaries in a compassionate way, observing the situation without judgment, just kind of like being the outside, like looking down at the situation, and then stating how that makes you feel, and be really radically honest about the way that makes you feel, and then tell them what you need, and do that from a place of love to the best you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does that land?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And how would you say it's like one of the wounds, like a feminine wound? We were just talking about the wounded masculine. What would you, in your opinion, what would be a wounded feminine?
The first thing that came to mind was people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
A constant need to show up to people while dishonoring your own values and your own truth and your own needs. Mm-hmm. So that is a huge feminine wound in all of us that comes up for a lot of my clients.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I feel like that is that open ocean, right? In a sense of like
exactly
no boundaries, and
exactly.
just forming yourself into being there for the masculine to be able to penetrate or to push into or to activate.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I've come from. That's a deep wound of mine, the people pleasing part. I have my self node in the 7th house, which is like the self node shows what is our, like kind of what we're taking from our past lives with us, the luggage, and it has all the gifts, but it also has all the traumas with it. And you know, we can feel into that and see, okay, what am I meant to really step into in this lifetime? And it's interesting because for me, coming from such a people-pleasing past, it's been so healing for me to step into my own masculine energy and really creating these boundaries and being very clear in what I want and having that golden light shine through me, you know, and not just being receptive to everything and allowing myself to, you know, flow and go with wherever it takes me, but rather like also be at the same time, is that where I want to go?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, is that what I truly want? And that has been so healing for me. And it's so interesting because that's what I feel so called to talk about, coming from this place where it was so easy for me to be in that feminine of flow, going with what is coming up and just, you know, making the best out of it and flowing, being fluid and allowing myself to be everything to everyone, you know, in a sense, to like being like, what am I specifically and where am I going? And it's like a different energy, because if I were to just feel into what we were saying, yeah, you know, the divine feminine being just the feminine energy, then I would just stay in my comfort zone, you know? And it's interesting because within my relationship, my husband is more in his masculine, and in his birth chart, it actually shows his soul's purpose is to go deeper into the feminine and to feel and allow himself to surrender and allow himself to be led and guided, because he has a bunch of, you know, his self node is in the past of like needing to be in control, because that's how he survived in the past, you know, and like really having like very clear boundaries. And his north node, his soul's purpose is to like open up and be receptive and allowing others to lead. And my north node is in that place of being the leader and stepping up and showing exactly like directing. And so it's like different because we have, you know, he's in his core is masculine, my core is feminine, but our purpose of like what we're here to experience is actually the exact opposite. So we're like triggering that within each other too, like helping each other experience that, sometimes through triggers, and other times, you know, really supportive. And it's just such a beautiful dynamic that I wanted to share with all our listeners here too, that when you find yourself in a place where you really feel called to take the lead in your relationship and be in that masculine place, that can be exactly what you're meant to do. You know, if I were to like listen to all these mentors and coaches that would tell me, well, if you want to be in this conscious relationship, you got to be in your feminine and the man's got to be in your masculine, my husband and I literally, we wouldn't grow. We would just be exactly who we are, in the comfort zone, just like doing what we've been doing, you know? But because our soul's purposes, and that's where it comes down to knowing yourself ultimately, is so important, because that's what actually creates this other polarity of us realizing, oh wait, my husband is meant to feel more into the feminine, I'm meant to feel more into the masculine, without denying my feminine, obviously still honoring her, and he without denying his masculine. But that is that polarity within our relationship, and that might be not for every relationship. I know that that is specifically for us as a couple, and that's where that individuality comes in, and where it's so important to understand, what am I here to experience? What is my comfort zone? What is a little bit out of my comfort zone that feels very intriguing? Because whatever is out of the comfort zone is how we grow. So it's like this balance, right? We want to be in a relationship where we feel comfortable and we feel safe, but also a relationship that helps us grow.
Yeah, and I love what you said in the beginning, how we go through phases of our life where we're more in our masculine and more in our feminine. And just to share a little bit about my story, I moved to Hawaii when I was 23 or 24, and I owned a house at the time. I was blessed to own a house, and I sold it, and I lived off the money that I earned from selling my house in Hawaii. And I didn't know this at the time, but looking back now, I realized that I had next to no priorities living in Hawaii. I was living right next to the beach, and I moved there. My soul knew I needed to move there because I needed to get to reunite with my feminine that was so wounded from growing up in a religious and blue collar home that told me emotions are weakness and, that whole shebang. And it's just amazing that my soul guided me there, and I lived there for over a year, and it restored my connection to my divine feminine, just being on that island and living freely the way I wanted to with this island life. And it was such a healing time for my feminine. And now any time that I work with men, which is about like a 50-50 split, so much of our work is around just giving them permission to feel their feelings, to be their full expression of self in all of their moods and tides. And that's, safety is in the healing. And when they feel safe, anybody feels safe to fully express themselves. That's the magic. That's the medicine. Yeah.
Beautiful. And now that you've restored your feminine, now you feel more called currently to be more in your masculine.
In my masculine. Yep. I needed to. I was in my masculine so much in my young adult life. I was full-time, more than full-time, as an operator engineer, doing a job that I hated since I was 15 years old. When I got out of high school, I worked for another 6 hours every single night. Barely did any homework. It was just the life that I grew up in with my father. And I was very, very insecure and wounded, and had a lot of not serving masculine qualities. And so after healing my feminine, it allowed, my true divine, conscious, grounded, sacred masculine to come forth after that. Beautiful process.
Yeah, so beautiful. Can you guide us a little bit about how do you help your couples, or do you work with couples a lot, or do you work individually with people that are in relationship?
Individually.
Okay, so what is it like? Do you want to share with us a little bit about the process of helping them heal their wounds that are maybe in the masculine or feminine, so that they can fully step into their core energy and experience that polarity within themselves as well, and their relationships?
Yeah, again, it really goes back to what I was saying is I can talk about different ways that we can heal the feminine and masculine parts of us. But when we just create the foundation of safety for everybody to fully not only be accepted, but seen in their full expression, no matter what that is, in all their vulnerability, that creates the foundation for their natural, because our divine masculine, divine feminine, it's already within us. We just got to let go of the layers that have, prevented us from being it, from embodying it, from knowing it, from feeling it. And once we create that foundation of safety, then those pieces just come together naturally. Like it's just a byproduct of feeling whole in who you are. Does that land?
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, for everybody listening, remember these words. Safety is the healing. Safety is the healing. That will heal your feminine and your masculine.
Yes. And so I love that you just touched on that, and you specifically said that to our listeners too. So for anybody who is listening and wants to work with you on that deeper level, what are you offering? How can they get in touch with you?
So many things. Thank you for asking. I just recently opened up some one-on-one work, and I like doing like a minimum of 6 months together. And as for pricing with that depends on the client. I like to come up with a win-win with I charge a minimum of $55,500. And then we come up with a plan for whether we do 6 months or 12 months or 3 months, et cetera, et cetera. So it's malleable. And I have a new community that I am releasing with my divine feminine counterpart, my love, and we are creating a community together. So that's just like beyond exciting. And
congratulations.
Thank you so much. We are so fucking excited. It's gonna support so many people.
What is the community called?
Oh my God. Okay. I just got it trademarked, so you guys are going to be like the first people to know. It is called, woo! I'm getting thrill bumps all over. That's how, like, this is something that's like being lived through us. This isn't our idea. This is Source's idea.
Yeah.
It's called Higher Self Sanctuary. And
beautiful.
We are beyond eager and grateful to be able to create this community together, because it's going to help and support and love on so many people. Yeah. And besides that, I have some courses that I have available on my website that you are welcome to tap into at any time.
Cool. What are the courses about?
So I have this course that we just released, and I'll just talk about that one, called Prime My Life. And essentially it takes people through they get a morning and evening ritual, and then a whole bunch of extra deliverables. And in the morning ritual and in the evening, there is a breath work called sonic breath work. It's a very shamanic style breath work. So really just get you into your body, get you into your heart. It's very somatic, or very cinematic, I mean. And we worked with sound healing professionals that wave in healing frequencies and 3D soundscapes with the breath work and throughout the entire track. And so we start with the breath work, and then we lead into this priming process, which involves a form of prayer, a form of gratitude, a form of radical embodiment, and a form of what we call pure celebration. And then we set intentions for the day ahead. And it's just really giving people a morning and evening ritual that they can use every day to make them, it's kind of like a whole spectrum ritual that can really tap you into who you really are, to your authentic self, to your heart, to your truth, and to the love that you are. So we release that next Tuesday, and we're so excited.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Like a whole formula for unleashing your badassness and embracing it fully.
That's so awesome. Congratulations. We can just hear and feel the excitement oozing out of you.
Thank you.
That's when you know it's like purely channeled, when you can feel that fire, that spirit, inspiration.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, like, this is just my personal belief, but I really believe like your source, your God, your connection to spirit of the universe, whatever you want to call it, really lives within your heart. And then I like to think of the ego, which is equally as important because it helps us, lives in the mind. And so whenever I have an idea that comes from my analytical mind, I'm like, is that my idea, or is that a greater force living through me? And then when I have an idea come from my heart, it's just like, oh my God, this is it. This needs to be lived through me and created through me. And then it like keeps me up at night, because I'm just so like, yes, like this is a fuck yes in my body. And yes. This is God or goddess living through me and wanting me to birth this for the world, for the collective.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I can feel, we know, Brett and I, we know.
For sure.
We feel that when something needs to be birthed, it's like, just gotta do it. What was that?
And
What was that quote, Britt, that Gabby Bernstein was saying? It's your responsibility.
Oh yeah, she was saying one of her mantras that she sat with for a year when she was writing her first book was, it is my responsibility to share my stories with the world.
Yes, queen.
Yeah, so getting behind that, she's like, if you don't believe that, you know, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder through the birthing process. You've got to align with that energy, because if you believe it, if you believe that it's your responsibility and you connect with the bigness of those stories and the potential impact, the limitless impact that they could have with other people, that will guide you.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yes.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, I am such a believer in every time you share your story, no matter what it is, that you are fulfilling a huge, a deep part of your purpose coming to this planet. Like your story, it holds codes in and of itself to help liberate people from the shackles placed upon them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What I've discovered, I've been sharing quite a lot, very vulnerably, of my life processes and personal development and transformation over the last 5 or 6 years. And usually what I've found is that the piece that's on my mind that I'm kind of hum-hawing around, like, do I say it? Do I not say it? Whatever, I'm going to say it. Usually it's that little piece that winds up actually getting the most engagement, the most response, the most, oh my God, I really needed to hear that today. Thank you so much. And I'm like, like every time it knocks me to my knees and it helps me reframe. I don't even know what's going to land in the ears. That's why it's such a fun process, just to share what it is that's on your heart, because if it's on your heart, then it wants to be shared with somebody.
Yes. Yes.
And it's none of your business to know how it impacts anybody. That's not why you share. You don't share to directly impact people. You share because it's on your heart and you don't know the potential that it has to shift somebody's entire trajectory.
I just want to pepper this in. Unquestionably, I'm so blessed and with humility saying this, that I have a life that I really genuinely love because of that. I've given myself permission to share my heart with people for so many years. Like, I have the relationships I do because of sharing my heart, because of being vulnerable, because of sharing my story. And the really ugly pieces of it that are now really beautiful, but they were really ugly at the time. It's so powerful. The medicine of your heart is so fucking powerful.
Beautiful. And I love that your self-note, your self-note is right between Capricorn and Aquarius. So literally your north node, and your self-note is right between Leo and Cancer, which is so much about, literally, Leo rules the heart and that inner fire, and Cancer that vulnerability. And that's this gift that you come into this world with, that bringing that outwardly. It's so beautiful. Yay. So we're coming to the end of our interview, and before we're gonna end this, we have 3 sacred questions that we ask each of our guests, and you can just keep it in a shorter format, your responses. Are you ready?
Born ready.
Beautiful. So first one is, what does sacred mean to you?
Devotion. Sacred means devotion to me. I believe anything that is that you consider sacred, devote yourself to. And whether that be your woman, your man, your whatever, the earth, your work, yourself, your healing, whatever it is, devote yourself to it. Devotion it also is like the energy of mastery to me. And I think of sacred as like the feminine, and like mastery as like the masculine, and devotion, like for me, meets right in the middle.
I I love that so much. Devotion and self-mastery are both pillars of my business. And I love that you just said that, because I feel the exact same way about devotion. It
yes.
helps to carry you places effortlessly, seemingly.
For sure.
So who is a sacred sister or brother to you, and what does it mean to have one?
Ooh, hard to pick one.
You don't have to pick one.
Ask me the question again.
Who is a sacred sister or brother to you, and what does it mean to have one?
A sacred brother to me, the first person that came through was my brother Alec, and it's so many things are coming through right now. It's like, oh my God, which one should I pick? Having a level of I guess we can say devotion to friendship, where you are just so, where you just see that person, you recognize somebody who you almost came through like the same soul pod with. And I like to think of people as like, okay, we came in the same soul family, or even more intimate, the same soul pod, and then even bigger, we're all still all collectively family. But those people that really resonate, that really hit home to your core. Alec is one of those men for me, and we just see each other on the most incredible levels of being. And not only that, but we hold each other accountable to our highest good and to our highest potential, and to really showing up in the world in a really authentic, embodied, and sacred way. So I think I guess having a sacred friendship with him is just the most delicious thing I could ever ask for.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yes. And so how do you turn something normal and mundane into something sacred and magical in your life?
Ooh. How do I turn something normal and mundane into sacred and magical? I first make a choice that this is something sacred to me, that I want this to be something sacred to me, like choice, like, okay, decision, this is going to be something I want. And then 2, if I can like put it in like a masculine order, 1, make a decision, this is going to be sacred for me. 2, devote myself to it. Like I think of my queen, for example, and think of just all of the, just how amazing our communication and our sex and our love and just it all is. And it's all because like that could be very easily a normal relationship quote, but it's extraordinary, it's sacred, it's powerful because of how devoted we are to each other and to expanding not only our gifts as individuals, but expanding our gifts together and who we are to each other and who we are to the world. So devotion is my simple answer, and making a decision to make it sacred.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah. Such a juicy, beautiful, wise episode.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, thank you so much for sitting with us, Jacob. That was such an honor to be experiencing your energy and your fire coming out, and your devotion to what you do and your work and your relationships. So thank you so much for sharing that with all of us.
It is such an honor, and thank you so much for having me. You both are just clearly such witches and alchemists and badasses and goddesses in every way, and I so appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I want to extend a beautiful thank you to each and every member of our audience, especially who's here with us right at the tail end of this episode. We thank you. This podcast is here for your service, for your insights, for your growth, for you to intake new perspectives and to come into contact with new beautiful beings who are spearheading their sacred missions. Please, if you do feel resonant, which I'm guessing that you do here at the tail end of the episode, please connect with Jacob more deeply in the way that feels resonant for you. We'll have all of his links and contact information in the detailed description of this episode. And please make sure to go and check us out on Patreon to receive mine and Hannah's video commentary on this episode and share more of our personal stories.
I love you both so much. I'm so happy.
I love you too, Jacob.